But essentially, the reason I want to film this, I want to record this, is because I want to change culture. I know it sounds like a grand statement. I used to be in the dating industry. I taught men for a very long time. Then I taught women. Two very different strategies and skill sets, by the way. But what I've come to appreciate far more is helping couples. My background teaching both men and women in the dating sphere has given me a particular kind of insight with regards to relationships. The way I intend to change culture is by actually solving dating problems using good advice and psychology. So not lines and gimmicks and cheesy things. I might give you some of those if you don't, like, what do I say? Then maybe I'll help you with some lines. But for the most part, I'm interested in teaching actual psychology. That said, I want to build brand. I want to create footage. I want to show people that no matter who you are, what your sex is, what your age is, what your culture is, I can help you. And that when you do find your ideal somebody, your deathbed partner, your husband, your wife, your forever, non-marriage committal person, that you don't, it doesn't have to end if things get hard. What I've learned in my near decade of doing this is that the skill sets of dating and the skill sets of being in a relationship are worlds apart. They're not the same thing. So when two people have a conflict with regards to how they're communicating, how they're perceiving a problem, no dating skills in the world are going to help you, right? Like communication skills, maybe, but it's highly limited. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the best dating coaches in the world, and many of them struggle to keep a partner. I actually don't know anyone that really has. And the reason is exactly what I'm saying. Relationships are they're a different ball game. So I'm going to put this on YouTube. I'm going to change culture. I'm going to give real dating advice, and then build brand that way. So again, when you do find your ideal someone, please come work with me when things get hard, because you don't have to go through divorce attorneys. You don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of money trying to figure out how to move apart, to separate, just to see if it needs to work. You don't need to do any of that. So anyways, this is day one of that. I haven't really decided how I want to approach this. So I think for the most part, I think I'm just going to ask who has time limitations today? Who's I want to leave. How about that? Like, I have shit I want to do. Does nobody? Lisa?
I may leave about 6:30, 6:45.
Okay.
I'm deciding if I want to go to another event or not. So
Okay.
I have a little time with you.
Totally fair. All right, Lisa, if you don't mind, then let's start with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Let's
Let's get you taken care of. Yeah, so I think you were telling me earlier you are single, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and if you don't mind my asking, how old are you?
I actually have never been formally in a relationship.
Okay, totally fair.
Yeah. There have been guys in and out of my life, different levels of that relationship, but we never really made it exclusive or for very long, so.
Okay, and was that by choice or? I'm gonna ask some hard questions, by the way, guys. Like,
Say it again.
oh, was that like your choice, or was that just like the chemistry wasn't there?
Sometimes it was chemistry.
Sometimes it's chemistry. Okay.
And then I think just earlier in my life, I honestly didn't really know how to date. I had a very conservative upbringing.
Okay.
And I think that there was a bunch of, I don't know, I guess like fears and limitations kind of put on the ideas of intimate relationship, and I am still moving through some of that, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
but despite that, you're here. So are you ideally looking for a long-term partner? Do you want to enjoy the freedom in the meantime until you do find that person? Like, what exactly are you hoping to, what does your ideal dream, dating life look like, until you find your ideal person? Or do you just want to find your ideal person?
I do want to find that person.
Okay.
I think in my current mind and perspective, I'm trying to figure out the kinds of values and the kind of person I feel like I would mesh with the most, and how do I find that?
Okay, and you said
connection?
you came from a conservative background though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up Christian and the whole purity culture kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I get you.
Um, yeah, so I didn't date very much when I was young and in that space. I think my desire right now, for the most part, even though I want to just meet that person, I feel like it could be good for me to just like know how to date around a little more, so I can meet several different types of men.
Yep, I do appreciate that, actually. That makes my job a whole lot easier. There are some people that say they don't want to do that, and I respect that answer. But the fact that you have said that does make this a whole lot easier. Are you comfortable dating multiple people at the same time, but being honest and open with the fact that like you're not trying to be exclusive right now, you're just looking to meet people? Is that something you're comfortable saying, or?
I'm figuring out how to be comfortable in that space.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I can tell you, for me, this is a line and a gimmick, so disclosure. But it does work, and it's very honest. When I meet people, whether I'm interested in dating them or not, one of the first things that they will learn about me is I'm somebody that likes to date openly, and I prefer bisexual women, right? But I'm a dating coach. I know exactly what I'm going after, right? I've definitely met women that have said, ew, that's disgusting, how could you? And I now know where we stand, right? Like, even if I'm attracted to this person, I'm never going to be in a position where I want to betray her trust by being in a relationship with her and then being with somebody else, right? Like, if that's something you're interested in, like you kind of want to have experiences with other partners, I would say something very similar. I'm somebody who, yes, does want to find my forever person. However, I'm not looking for anything exclusive right now. Are you comfortable with that? And they will either say yes or they will say no. You'll meet some men that are like, I'm not comfortable sharing. One thing that tells you, though, is that they might be ready for something serious. If they're willing to say something like that out the gate, that tells you a little bit about where they are, right? And so one thing that's really useful to know is if you get an answer like that and you're not ready yet, this might be a good person to keep as a friend. Because, one, we can definitely become attracted to our friends. Definitely. Having that friendship foundation definitely reinforces whatever relationship may come about. And three, I mean, you may have had the opportunity to explore other partners before. Maybe this is the right guy.
Recognize that person or find that person, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, this is where things get really fun for me. Because there are answers to this question. They're a little nuanced, but there are answers. The general blanket answer to that question is, one, are we friends? Is there chemistry? Is there trust? And can we solve problems together? Now, I'm gonna teach a little bit about personality theory here in a second. That said, how do you know if you're dealing with the right person? How do you know if your personalities are even compatible, right? There are many, let me not over-exaggerate. There are definitely a few personality assessments that I use and gauge when I'm meeting anyone in the street, like even now talking to you. I don't expect you to remember these. However, I will give them to you as resources, okay? Some you can find online, some like there's one that I really recommend. I think it's like $10, but it's one of the most accurate personality assessments in the world. Which is a scary thing to claim. It described me better than my own mother would, so that should tell you something. It was a little weird to read. But anyways, one of the more simple ones, for sure, is something called PEN, P-E-N. And it was developed by, I think his name is Hans Eisnick. I could be getting his first name wrong. Him and his wife, though. And it is a personality model that applies to both sexes. However, for demonstrative purposes, we're just going to be applying it to women, okay? Separately from PEN, there was another study that was done, and I'm not even going to try to quote all of these studies. I have them memorized as information, just not the names, forgive me. Anyways, the separate study was trying to figure out what categories of men women find universally attractive. So regardless of age, religion, background, culture, you name it, right? Like these 4 categories of men they deduced are the most attractive, okay? The first is the bad boy. The second is the leader. The third is the nice guy. And the fourth is the provider. Now, those 4 categories of men are unidimensional, almost caricatures of the human personality, okay? Nobody is just a nice guy. Nobody is just a bad boy, right? We all have dimensions to each of these, right? It's more or less on a spectrum. That said, again, for demonstrative purposes, we're going to be talking about these 4 categories as single-dimensional human beings, okay? Going back to the pen. Pen, P-E-N, notice there's 3 of them, right? So there's already, the math doesn't add up, but we'll cover that here in a second. P. P stands for psychotic, okay? Somebody who is high on the psychotic spectrum or low in the psychotic spectrum. Somebody who's high is very emotionally driven. A lot of people get offended by the term psychotic. It has nothing to do with like being an actual psycho human being. It's just a term that they use, psychotic for emotional driven. People who are low on psychotic tend to do what they say they're going to do, right? They're not necessarily driven by their emotions, they're driven by duty, okay? When dealing with a woman who is very high psychotic, she's driven by her emotions. She agrees to go out to fun events, and then the time comes and she doesn't necessarily want to anymore. And that's okay, right? She kind of goes with the flow. It's probably accurate to relate her to a river, right? Sometimes she's there, she's awake, and sometimes she's just not feeling it. That's the psychotic. Her ideal type is the bad boy. And the reason is the bad boy makes decisions regardless of consequences. Now, note, the bad boy in its benevolent form is not an asshole. A lot of people get this wrong. The asshole can be interesting. Really, the bad boy just breaks social norms. That's it. He doesn't have to be rude. He doesn't have to be ugly. He doesn't have to be inappropriate at all. So one of the cheesiest examples I can give, and I guess this is kind of a line, but it's just an example really, is if I'm playfully flirting with somebody, I can do something like in the middle of a movie and just, you know, if we're eating popcorn at home or like we're on a diet, what have you, she'd be like, do you want to be bad? Do you want ice cream? Like you're smiling, right? So that's exactly what you're looking for, right? You just want to like make it fun, like it's inappropriate, but it's not. You know, you're walking down the road and you're holding hands and you go, you know, do you want to be bad? Do you want to jaywalk, break a law real quick? And just something fun, something silly, something exciting. Somebody who's willing to break social norms often can make people laugh in that way. And that's what you're looking for. I am not naturally a bad boy. I used to struggle with it, actually. I'm very attracted to psychotic women in the sense that I like women that are that keep me on my toes. They're fun. They're very engaging for me. But I had a hard time attracting that type of woman because I struggled to be a bad boy, right? There may be men in this room that might relate to that. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. But yeah, that's the thing about being a bad boy is actually you don't have to be rude, you don't have to be ugly, nor should you be, right? Truthfully, you can be safe and still be somebody that she feels is dangerous. You know, maybe you're spontaneous, maybe you're adventurous, maybe you want to go jump out of an airplane because that sounds fun for you, right? That's crazy. That's what you're looking for. So anyways, the psychotic is deeply attracted to the bad boy. The extrovert, E, pen. The extrovert is somebody who loves social interactions. They live and breathe around other people. They would always rather be doing something with somebody than staying home watching TV, okay? Seeing a lot of yeses, so I'm guessing a lot of extroverts. That said, her ideal type is the leader. Now, what's really interesting about leaders is that you don't have to be extroverted to be a leader. You just have to facilitate social interactions. So if you know somebody that just knows somebody, they then get to be like, hi, Samantha, this is my good friend, Jeremy. This is his wife, Amy. Not to make their names rhyme, but like, you allow her to interact with new people, right? Someone who's a leader typically isn't very territorial because they're always engaging. They're always hosting events. Maybe they have house parties. Maybe they throw events for their friends, you know, that sort of thing. the extrovert tends to find compatibility with the leader, okay? The neurotic. The neurotic is, it's a negative emotion trait. They feel negative emotions quite strongly, right? So it's not that they're depressed, but they may be depressive. You know, they might stress out very easily. They might need things to be under their control in order to feel safe and secure. Her ideal type is actually the nice guy. So for any guys in the room that are like, I'm definitely a nice guy, that's who you probably usually attract as girlfriends looking back. Like, she was a very sweet girl, right? And the reason she's attracted to the nice guy is because, generally speaking, the nice guy is present. He's attentive. He's there for you, and he knows how to cater to your wants and needs, or at least he strives to, right? The bad boy may not necessarily do that. He may not know how to do that. He's going to be making jokes at inappropriate times. You know what I mean? So as a male, and I'm talking to the males in this group, you need to know when to turn each of these parts of you on and off, right? You never want to fake who you are or pretend to be somebody you're not, right? Again, I struggled with the bad boy, but I can be silly, I can be playful, I can make dangerous activities like jaywalking, you know what I mean? Like, that's not pretending to be somebody else. And so, yeah, as men, you need to know, like, who am I dealing with right now? My woman is stressed out. Does she need me to be a nice guy? Or does she need me to handle shit, be a leader? Like, for example, right now in my own life, my wife and I are so busy that the house is just a mess. And every time we clean up, it just seems to get worse somehow. Anyways, so I've decided, I was like, look, let's just hire a cleaning lady and we'll solve it. Done, right? So that's one example of how to show up as a leader, quote unquote, right? Connecting not just people, but situations as well, appropriately to help her and facilitate her needs. That said, as women, it might be useful to know these things as well, right? If you don't have time, but you know you're more neurotic and you need a clean home and your schedule is always busy, if you can, try to outsource the cleaning, right? And in doing so, that might make you more stress-free. It might allow you to show up better for your partner, that sort of thing. Anyways, so that covers pen. The fourth category of men, which was left off the table, so we have bad boy, leader, nice guy, and the fourth one is the provider, okay? The provider is somebody who has wealth and resources. You can fake being a provider. You can, dress fancy, put on good cologne, do your hair. Hell, you can borrow a friend's Lamborghini. You can fake being a provider. And you can also be the provider. You can have all of these resources. It is attractive. The problem is, it is nobody's ideal choice. Nobody. So nobody is going to find this person and say, I want to be with them forever. Eventually, because again, these are all unidimensional characters here, the provider lacks substance. That's his main issue in life. He lacks substance. He's worked his entire life to have status and wealth, and he almost has nothing going for him outside of his career. Okay? If you can find a highly charismatic, successful individual, and I'm speaking to you right now, Lisa, who, knows how to be silly, playful, a bit of a comedian, so he's got that bad boy element. He can be extroverted, and he can be sweet and attentive for you, and he can provide for you. He's essentially the perfect package as far as these four categories go, right? But you, as a woman, Lisa, now know that actually these are very fine-tuned elements of the human personality that we can all recognize. And I hate to use this term, but it's appropriate. We want to train our partners how to show up best for us when we need them to. Okay? I, as a dating coach, sort of inherently know how to show up for the person I'm with, specifically my wife right now, right? But you as a female may have a hard time communicating that. One thing worth knowing is if you're dealing with a man who's not receptive to showing up for you in a particular way, it could be one of two things. One, the way you're approaching it. Two, he's just not a receptive person. He's not interested in changing who he is, in which case that tells you something else about the relationship. It's not worth keeping, right? If it's the way you're communicating, by all means, ask. how would you like me to communicate? Because when I say it this way, I get yeses, but there's no follow through. Like, what do you need? And different men have different answers to that question, by the way. I've heard men say, I need to feel like a man, I need to feel respected. I've had others say, look, my love language is physical touch, like give me a hug, remind me that you love me, right? Like, reward them for doing the thing you're literally asking them to do and knowing how to reward them. And that's what I mean by training our partner to show up in these ways. Now, Lisa, this is one personality assessment of a few that I utilize when I'm building a personality model. But this one is incredibly useful. It allows us to fine-tune how we, not just how we perceive the person we're interacting with, but how we perceive a potential future with them. I've met plenty of nice guys that date women, even family members, and the women will say, he's so sweet, but he's boring, and I feel bad saying that. Yeah, you're nodding yes, right? Have you experienced that before?
Yeah. I appreciate the sweetness. I have encountered that some, and it's really beautiful, but I'm like, I don't think I'll be stimulated enough in this connection.
Right. And so you might need somebody who can also be a bad boy and show up and just bring some excitement and some playfulness there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the most effective ways I've found to find a bad boy is one, they tend to make themselves known in a crowded room, right? Because they're usually the life of the party. They're usually the person that gets people laughing. But also, because they're creatively looking to break rules, they tend to be really creative people, weirdly enough. Going to a comedy club, as weird as that sounds, and just making friends, if you can make friends with people who are in an environment where they're there to laugh, they appreciate humor, they probably try to model humor. Essentially, you just want to go to where you think this type of person would be, right? If you went skydiving, I guarantee you're probably not going to run into too many introverts necessarily, right? You're going to run into people that are like, oh my God, this is so exciting, this is crazy. How do you feel about this, right? It may be very easy to make friends if you do things that require, that facilitate experiences. And one of the cool things about dating, I'm kind of jumping a little bit, but one of the cool things about dating is it's not necessarily going on dates. It's being in a position where you can make friends and meet completely new people while simultaneously having experiences. Did you have a question? I know you were one of the people that said you had a time limit as well. I'm not sure if you guys were trying to explore the domain. You are going to explore a little bit? Okay. Do you want me to answer some of your questions then, or? No?
Another day.
Yeah, this shit got personal.
You already know a lot of my nonsense.
Hey man, we're still here to solve problems. That's what this is about.
I feel like my problems are going to be like very young people specific, so
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One of the temptations I would strongly advise against is poking holes in the ship. So oftentimes, not always, but I will meet people, Libby, your aunt is chief among them, Heather, who you'll give them solutions and they will anticipate problems before they've even tried it. And there's always a problem. And so you solve that problem. You're like, well, okay, but that's not what like, what about this? Don't do that, right? Put it into practice, come back next week. Hey, I did this, here's the problem I ran into. Then we can deal with that, right? Or, more often than not, you won't deal with that problem and you'll have successes. That's what I would recommend. Just put it into practice. All right, Zohair, how can I help you, man?
Thinking of the question.
Oh, you're thinking of a question. Does anybody have any question? Like they know what their problem is, they want help with it.
Yeah, I keep asking myself this one question. And so maybe you can help.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand, like take apart all the noise and just figure out, like, at its core, what is it that I want to do in terms of relationship and even dating. So what I mean is, like, it was a little bit like what you were talking with Lisa, like how to identify like what's the person you want, but even like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I even want like if I'm ready, I guess is also what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And I want to know, like, how do I know when I'm ready?
I'm going to ask you a question that I want you to think about before you answer quickly.
Okay.
When you say, how will I know if I'm ready, is it really just fear? And what do you mean by ready? Like, do you want to have like crazy sexual experiences? Do you want to be able to travel without being tied down to somebody that can't travel with you? What do you mean ready? Like, you can get really specific with this really quickly.
Okay. So yeah, it might be fear, first of all.
Okay?
When you said that, I was like, oh, maybe that. And then, but then, yeah, the second part of your question was, and also I'm not sure, that's almost what I'm trying to figure out too.
Okay, sure. I definitely didn't want kids for most of my 20s. It was kind of weird. I don't know if it's like a hormonal switch, but like I just randomly really wanted a kid. It was very strange. And it's not like I was just trying to meet somebody and just be like, yo, you know, baby. Like I just knew I wanted to find somebody that I could be a parent with. And what happened was I dated people, I could potentially see a future with them. And even if I couldn't, I still enjoyed it for what it was, right? I never overthought it like, oh, I'm stuck in this thing now. I never did that. I just enjoyed them. And if it didn't work out, like, I always try to be friends. Like, I mean that. Like, if you're honest about what you're trying to do, which is to say, I'm somebody that likes to date openly, then you're simultaneously managing expectations as well, right? Like, it's okay to say, I don't know if I'm ready for something serious. It's much better to say, I'm not looking for it, but when I find it.
Okay.
Because then the other person, it isn't like, oh, like they want something serious. You know, like they're not thinking that. They're also not thinking, fuck, I have to be that person. You give them the freedom to be them without the consequence, right? Like they don't have to worry if you're gonna get attached. They don't have to worry if they have to like be presentable as a forever option for you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm somebody that likes to date openly. I'm not looking for anything serious, but if I find it, I'm more than happy to, right? And that should be your go-to line. Like, just everybody should know that about you. Andrew doesn't date very seriously. He does want something permanent eventually. He hasn't found it yet. That's all.
Sorry, I'm gonna write that down. Yeah, so it sounds like, thank you for the input, because it sounds like now maybe in combined with you saying like, oh, maybe it's just a fear thing. So then my goal should be like, I should just try it and see what happens. But then, so now I just gotta conquer that fear.
Literally, just introduce yourself to men that way, right? Not because like necessarily you're trying to attract men. Like obviously it's not it, but only because I know you. But you just get used to saying it, right? Because if you're only saying it to women you're attracted to, then subconsciously you're only saying it because like you secretly want a special type of relationship with that person, even though it's not necessarily supposed to be forever, right? It's just something people know about you.
Okay.
And one of the cool things about you, Andrew, dude, I've met so many people because of you. In like the last month, easily 50, if not more. Yeah, so yeah, but yeah, dude, like there should be no fear with regards to what it is you're looking for or how you're presenting what you're looking for, which is a very no pressure thing. I like to date openly. I'd like to find a permanent partner, but I'm not looking. Hi, my name is Andrew. It's great to meet you. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you. That helps a lot. I'll have to put it into practice. To
You go, man.
actually work, but yeah, I think that's gonna help.
And you know what's weird? This is like a weird hack I've learned. If I want to divulge something about myself, I will steer the conversation by asking them the question I kind of want them to ask me.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So like, if I'm let's just say I meet a cute girl at a bar, right? I will often ask like, you know, I often assume attractive women have boyfriends, right? That's just the assumption. where's your boyfriend? Oh, he's not here. I don't have one. I don't do things like, that's crazy, you don't have a boyfriend. Just be like, oh, I just wanted to respect your boundaries. Like, I know some people are willing to step on toes. I just didn't want to do that. My name's Chris, by the way. You see what I'm saying? And I don't mean like, if they're not attractive, don't ask that question. Like, dude, attraction's subjective. Like, you should always try to not step on toes, right? It's just a good way, if you're going to approach somebody that you're attracted to approach, right?
Yeah.
And dude, like, I've definitely met women, I've been friends with women that say they have boyfriends when they go out just because they don't want to get hit on. Like, when you and I went out and like we did like a boys' night, you were like, I don't want the pressure of like coaching. Like, dude, sometimes they don't want that either. They just want to go out and have fun, right? But make friends, and that was kind of my advice to Lisa too. Just put yourself in situations where you get to meet people, have experiences with them, and let the chemistry form organically, right?
Yeah, no, that resonates.
But when you introduce yourself as somebody who's not looking, willing to be open, just here to have fun. If there's chemistry, she now knows that about you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you're not having to do that awkward, like, dinner, 20 questions, like, what are you looking for? Like, do you want kids one day? Like, you don't have to do that. You'll know it, and it seems like completely organic conversation. You're just 12 steps ahead of the game,
Yeah.
right? Anything else? Did that answer your question? Do you have any other questions? Yeah?
Yeah, I have a different question.
Yeah, what's up?
Earlier you mentioned something, and I think I know this about you too, where you say like, oh, sometimes you go from being friends to dating. Is that, well, first of all, did I get that right? And then,
I prefer it. I prefer to date friends, yes.
how does that work?
You just want people to see you as a sexual creature. When you're not necessarily trying to get anything from anyone, you're not trying to have sex with anyone, you're just being friendly, then you're friends, right?
Yeah.
You have memories, you have experiences, you're friendly. Also, there's this weird sexual chemistry there. You're friends, right?
Okay.
But as you escalate, if you do it properly, and escalation is not, oh my God, I want to take you to the bedroom. That's not escalation. That's cheap. It doesn't work anyway, right? Escalation, the best way I've heard it described is like climbing ladders on a rung. Maybe you've heard that as well, right? It should be very minimal step-by-step escalation. So, oh my God, that dress looks amazing on you. I just thought you should know it. You're not saying like, wow, her body's great, you want to take her to bed. No, you're not saying any of that. You're just saying her outfit looks great and she deserves to know it. She can't reject that. She put time and effort into her outfit. That's a compliment she's likely going to appreciate. Now, if she's in baggy shorts and her hair's all messed up and you're like, that outfit's great, she might think you're a sarcastic asshole. So make sure the compliment is sincere, right? I remember when I was first learning, I approached this woman because I was trying to get over my fear of approaching. And I was like, I love your necklace. And she goes, thanks. And I was like, where'd you get it? She goes, I took it out of my drawer. Yeah, exactly. And like, she wanted nothing to do with my compliment, my conversation. Like, and it felt forced because it was. Like, I liked the necklace, but if that's all I'm complimenting about her, something's wrong, right? Now, if you want to be hyper specific and just be like, oh my God, that necklace compliments the whole thing, like, well done, I can tell you put thought into it. That's something very different, right? Again, you're not saying, wow, you have green eyes, they're so beautiful. She didn't do anything for those green eyes. She's heard that her whole life, right? Just make sure you're rewarding her effort. And you may have heard that before, because I know you and I have had similar teachers. Damn it, what was your original question? I got carried away.
Oh, I was just saying like, so I phrase it this way, like when you're friends and then.
Oh, how do you, yes, that's what it was. It was sexual escalation. Yep. So when you have the friendly interactions and you're friends, and you do things like, oh my God, listen to this, right? And you tap their shoulder. You've broken the touch barrier. By the way, if any of you have ever seen a movie, like the cliche ending to the date where they're like, go to the front porch and they're underneath the light and it's like, do I kiss her? Do I not kiss her? It's kind of weird. The only reason that ever happens is because the touch barrier was never broken. Ever. So I don't care if it's a high five. I don't care if it's tapping on them on their shoulder to get their attention. Break the touch barrier as quickly as humanly possible. Does that make sense? he said that I talk about trying to be friends with people and then, establish a relationship or try to be sexual. How do you do that? Because, friend zone is a thing. One of the quickest ways to do that is just make sure that the other person sees you as a sexual person. And Cal, I think we talked about that actually. You don't want to talk about your sexual escapades like you're bragging. That's not cool. Don't do that. What you do want to do is have really interesting conversations about sex. So like if you see some dude on the dance floor who's got like stiff hips, by the way, and this doesn't have to be true. I know it's not true because I have stiff hips when I dance. But anyways, you can call him out in front of the person you're with and just be like, I guarantee that dude's bad at sex. And just, why? Because his hips are so stiff, right? But I'm secretly making fun of myself because I can't dance. But I like to think I'm great at sex, whatever. But the point is, you just want to be able to talk about other people having sex in a socially acceptable way that lets her know that you know what you're talking about, right? And again, that's kind of a line, it's kind of a gimmick, but I'm trying to help you understand ideas for how to incorporate your personality and how you would talk about sex. Like, I don't want to be everyone's watched porn. Have you watched porn? And she's like, I don't watch porn. Then stop that conversation immediately. But if she's like, yeah, I watch porn, you don't have to ask her what kind of porn she watches. But you could tell like a funny, I don't know, porn blooper. I don't care. Like, just make it socially acceptable in a not weird way. Talk about sex, right? One of the best ways I've found, it's kind of a cheat code way to do it, and women, this works for you as well, is talk about the worst sex they've ever had or how men constantly let them down or in what area, right? So like, you as a female, you could be like, I'm like, are women generally bad at like giving blowjobs? Like if that's a question you're comfortable asking, but like now you're talking about sex as well. He's no longer friend zoning you, right? There's just that understanding that this is a sexual person I'm talking to. We have a lot of fun. We've broken the touch barrier. It's very organic. Nothing's forced. Nothing should seem like there's an ultimate intent in this, right? And nor should it. This is how you should engage with everybody, right? But when you do find that person you're attracted to, you've laid out the roadmap for it to happen organically, rather than I only do it to this girl because I find her attractive and it seems weird. Or I do it to this guy because I find him attractive and it seems weird, right? Everybody has sex. Everybody talks about sex. For whatever reason, it's taboo. It probably shouldn't be. Just make it normal. And then, once you've had that friendship, you've broken the touch barrier, you've been a little flirtatious, you've given appropriate compliments that have sort of escalated, right? That dress looks really great on you. Oh my God. Like, oh, we're talking about the puppy. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so also one of the things, Lisa, I was telling him, I don't know if this applies to you, but just so you hear it. When you're giving compliments or escalating sexually, men often get this wrong, so it's important to say this for the men. But you want to compliment something very low risk, right? Oh my God, that outfit looks great on you. I just thought you should know, right? It's a rejection-proof compliment. You see somebody dancing or they're doing a little dance while they're about to eat, because sometimes people do that. It's really funny. And you'd be like, that's an adorable dance on you, by the way. Like, brought a smile to my face. Like, now it's getting a little flirtatious, right? Like, just anything you can do to just make it slightly more acceptable, right? I'm trying to think of examples I've used, but at that point we're going into lines and gimmicks. If we have any problems in those areas, come to me. This will probably be a future talk, but like, hey, I ran into this problem, I gave out this compliment, and it didn't work, right? Then we'll cover it. But I'm trying to focus on not lines and gimmicks. It's a problem of the industry. Anyways, so forgive me while I stumble forward, guys. But did you have any other questions? Lisa, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask? Andrew said you're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Lisa?
I'm okay for the moment. I'll just listen in for now.
Okay, cool. I cannot remember your name.
Ashok.
Ashok.
Yes.
Ashok. It is a cool name. Just forgive me while I expose myself to that name for a minute, because I've never heard it before. Ashok. Did you have any questions, man? I'm glad you came, by the way. I don't think we've ever met before. Yeah, this is really
I
cool.
just had a date cancel on me last minute. So
Okay, then
that's
this
why
is
I'm late.
wildly appropriate. All right. Okay, so you had a date cancel on you. Do you have particular dating questions? If not, that's okay. I
No,
can.
I do. Like, I don't have a problem. Let's say if I find, I don't know. I mean, yes, there are women here, but like we all have a rating scale. So
Mm-hmm.
I am fine flirting with women. Let's say who are, I don't know, 6 or below.
Oh, okay, on in numbers. I get you. Okay.
But when it's like 7 to 10, it's like I can even talk to my company CEO without a problem because I'm not attracted to him.
Right.
But it's a challenge.
So when you're talking to somebody you're attracted to, is what you're saying, then you're struggling.
Yeah, but if it's some, I mean, I
As a male, I relate to it, so I understand. I understand what you're saying.
So,
However,
suspect.
what I've learned is not to refer to women as a scale of 1 to 10 when you're talking to women. Also, there's a much better scale, I've heard. I don't use it very often, but I use it like mentally as a rule of thumb. You're not necessarily attracted to them. It's the first one. You would probably have some sort of relationship with her, but like it's not like a. You wouldn't tell the whole world about it, right? But like you'd introduce her and you'd hang out with her. And then this is the most attractive woman in my life. Holy shit! Like I want everybody to know, right? Like yeah, there's that. And by the way, like we have to admit, we're not always the most attractive person in the world either. Like I'm a very average-looking dude, so I get it. But like as a rule of thumb, 1 through 10 is kind of doesn't always work. Anyways, yeah. So when you're talking to somebody you're attracted to, you get a little nervous. God, this is another line and gimmick, but it really worked for me. When I was first starting out, I would approach people somewhat very confidently, but like, hi, my name is Chris. I just want you to know off the bat, I'm really shy. So if I seem awkward, just know it's because you're absolutely beautiful, right? Something like that. Or I just want you to know I'm really shy, so don't be weird if I do something like this, right? But now you're doing the most extreme thing in a playful way. Now you've kind of like broken the ice with that awkward talking to you thing, right? And also, tell me something about you. Get them talking about them, right? Because a lot of times, especially as men, I think as men, we feel the need to be worthy of love or a woman's attraction, right? You have to be interesting enough, you have to be good looking enough, you have to be tall enough. Dude, I'm 5'3". Trust me, I didn't know I was allowed to be attractive as a teenager. Like, but yeah, none of those things are true, man. This is gonna sound mean, it's not very PC, but we've all seen like the really goofy looking dude with a gorgeous woman. Does anybody know who Pete Davidson is? Yeah, you're all laughing right now because he was with Kim Kardashian and she contemplating having his children for a little while. Like, you don't have to be that attractive, but he's a comedian. He's funny. And by the way, let me tell you something about neurochemistry, by the way, guys. Is anybody familiar with the neurochemical oxytocin? Yes, I'm getting a lot of yeses right now? Okay. Oxytocin is the love and trust chemical, okay? The only difference from a neurochemical perspective between a complete stranger that's a little creepy and shady and your best friend is oxytocin. The only difference between a stranger and your husband, oxytocin. That's it. We release and we can trigger these chemicals in other people. We do that by breaking the touch barrier, right? Touch, physical touch, oxytocin. Making people laugh, oxytocin. Deep conversation, oxytocin. By the way, having sex, oxytocin. Right? So you can think of sexual escalation as an oxytocin gauge, if you will, right? The reason that awkward moment at the front door happens because shouldn't I go for the first kiss, is because you never broke the touch barrier. There's not enough oxytocin there. It's inappropriate. It's weird. Even for you, who wants to do it? So you have to break the touch barrier. It has to be normal. High fives, stupid shit. Like I'll do thumb wars because nobody does thumb wars, but it's a good way to like get into it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's fun. And just be like, oh, you win. High five, right? You just break the touch barrier. And by the way, girls, this applies to you too. Like I've definitely met women that are like, I really like him. I don't know how to talk to him. Or like, I don't. You want me to touch him? Like, what do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how silly shit. Like, are you cool? What do you mean? Are you cool? Am I cool? Yeah, I'm cool. Let's play thumb war. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a play. Like, you've made them laugh. You've broken the touch barrier. Now it's super competitive. Oxytocin, right? Great first dates. Go to a comedy special. Why? Lots of laughter, right? That sort of thing. To go back to your bit about how to talk to people that you're particularly attracted to, okay? Again, doing silly shit like, I'm actually really shy. I just want to let you know. So if I do something like this, don't think too much about doing it. You know, but like, it's funny, right? You can just call it out ahead of time. If you didn't want something, like let's just say you were going shopping, right? Like you wanted to buy a new shirt, pair of shoes, whatever, and you saw a very attractive saleswoman, would you have any problem asking her for help, like finding shoes? None. You were shaking your head no. Okay, none. Because you don't want anything from her. And that's my point about, you know, how do you escalate? Dude, just be friends with everybody. Be friendly with everybody. Like, know how to give compliments appropriately, and then just break the touch barrier. If she likes you, she likes you. But it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, she's hot. Dude, sometimes, I learned this the hard way, sometimes the most attractive woman in the room is a total bitch. Yeah, like you guys are shaking your head. It's true, just because she's pretty doesn't mean she's a quality human being. And women have the same problem too. He's so pretty, but the moment he talked, he was just a dumbass. He was dumb as bricks. There's some women laughing. Like both sexes have some equivalent of that problem. So having the most attractive person is not actually always the win, right? You want the most quality person that you're attracted to. Make sense? Yeah, here you go.
I was thinking about the bartenders at Dave & Buster's, remember? And then
Yeah,
he was trying to talk, and then if you help his mouth, he's like, nope.
Yep. So my wife and I and Aubrey here went to Dave & Buster's. For anyone that can't see, yeah, specific story. We went to Dave & Buster's, and there was there was like 3 good-looking bartenders. And all 3 of them were really attractive in their own way. One was like a clean-cut blonde he's like a real-life Ken model, basically. And he talked, and he had this like squeaky voice, and it was very weird and awkward. I was like, oh, you put like so much time and attention into your appearance that your personality didn't match, right? So again, he was faking the provider in that way. He came off as somebody who was well put together, had resources, but he was just a goofy kid. You know what I mean? And he might get some attention being good looking as a bartender. But I know for a fact, because I talked with him, he has a hard time getting a second date. That's why. One of the other bartenders, similar thing, he came off as like a really, like a tough biker looking dude, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was the weirdest goofball. He was so soft and like not at all intimidating, but like there was this incongruence in that image and like what you expected of him that like all of the women were just like, oh, never mind. You see what I'm saying? Just be congruent with who you are. So again, if you're nervous around meeting people, I'd make fun of it, dude. Like legitimately, like I'm super nervous if I just do something random like this. But you'd probably get a laugh out of that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think you could do that, by the way? Like, it's a line, it's a gimmick, but like, is that something you
the
could...
nose part actually has worked out for me.
The what?
The nose part.
The nose part?
No, being upfront about me being nervous.
Nervous. Okay, yeah.
Right? So I've tried that line.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, actually.
Women actually appreciate that and just kind of makes them laugh.
Yeah.
And I think if you make them laugh in the first, like there's another friend of ours that we hang out with, he always says, in the first minute, if you can make a woman laugh, you can.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if that's not a problem, actually, because you do have a way to overcome that, what is the problem when you're talking to these women?
I think, okay, this is a difficult question. Okay. I don't know, like the conversations flow more naturally
Okay.
with other people, women, men, you know, that I'm just not, let's say, attracted to.
Okay.
But when it's somebody that I'm attracted to, like it's like I have a
There's a reason, actually, from a neurophysiological perspective. You're attracted to them, but also your heart rate's increasing. Cortisol's kicking in, which is the stress hormone, by the way. When that happens, you're in fight or flight or freeze. Your cognitive brain, your prefrontal cortex, is not allowed to work anymore. From a survival perspective, it's not allowed to. It shuts it down. So you can't think, even though your brain might be running 1,000,000 miles an hour, you actually can't think. That's why. So what I've learned when I was learning was give compliments and then walk away. That outfit looks amazing on you. I just thought you should know it. The first time I tried that line, again, lines and gimmicks, but sometimes they're appropriate. The first time I tried that, I had a woman stop me on the road in LA and she goes, "Thank you so much. There needs to be more men like you in this world." And I was like, whoa. I was a goofy kid that didn't know how to talk to women. Suddenly she's like, heartfelt thank you. Do that 10 times and suddenly there's something in your brain that says, oh, I'm allowed to talk to attractive people. And then as you get more exposure to it, the part of your nervous system that needs to kick in slowly realizes you're not in any threatening situations, so you don't have to be nervous anymore. It literally, it's called exposure therapy. But just do it by giving compliments and seeing people smile at you and then wanting nothing from them. Some people will say, "Thank you so much, have a great day." I've had women pull me aside and be like, wait, what's your name? Thank you. Dude, like, that's a weird thing to experience when you've never experienced that before. You know what I mean? But want nothing from them. Does that make sense? You're shaking your head. Like, you would appreciate that?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to comment on that real quick. You were saying exposure therapy. I was like, this is really good practice, like just taking that bite size, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then learning to be genuine with it. It's also teaching you that in the moment too, like learning to find something authentic so that you can appreciate that compliment as well. And it's like teaching yourself and your system to like what that feels like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to have a full-on conversation. So I really love that, and I would love to experience that more from men who are crossing my path, you know? Like, I don't get that very much, and I feel like I'm a very attractive person.
Yeah.
I'm very fun, I'm outgoing, like, I almost never experienced that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
here and there barely, but they
And the reason
compliment people.
the reason is, and Lisa, it blew my brain because dude, I'm 5'3". I'm a short dude. I'm average looking at best. Like, as a teenager, I had no skills, I had no confidence, but I remember my college roommates were really attractive athletes. Like, really attractive athletes. They could get gorgeous women that, like, in my brain were, like, completely out of my league, and I was so envious. And I remember after I learned these skills, I started putting them into practice. I started seeing results, and I became a coach. I hung out with them again, really excited to be like, new me, you know, new year, new me kind of thing. But I'd be like, yeah, let's go like meet people. And they're like, okay. So we go to a bar and they're sitting by themselves. And I was like, dude, she's really like cute. Why don't you go talk to her? He's like, no. I was like, what do you mean no? Like, he's like, no, I'm not getting rejected. That's stupid. I was like, oh, so you're nervous to attract. Like, but this was a collegiate athlete who's known for getting women. He won't approach because he's afraid of rejection. So, like, honestly, it's a weird thing. Men do women a disservice by not giving compliments because they think they're going to get rejected. And then women go, why doesn't anybody compliment me? Dude, just don't be weird and want anything from them. Does that make sense? Just make their day. And I'll be honest, there was a point in my life where I was, this is before my wife, I was in a relationship with somebody who was weirdly territorial. We ended it. But I had stopped giving compliments or even talking to other people that I'd convinced myself I was an introvert again. Like I felt like it was like a muscle, I just didn't have it. And I would say things like, oh, I should have complimented her, but like I got in my head about it, right? Like it's a weird thing that women, by the way, you guys should know, men experience. A lot of men are shaking their head right now because they're like, oh, I should have done it, but I didn't, right? It's the fight, flight, or freeze, but it's exposure therapy at the same time. The more you expose yourself to it, the less you're going to have that cortisol kicking in, shutting down everything. And so it is legitimately a muscle. And when you can get that compliment, I don't want anything from you, have a great day, you walk away, your heart's gonna be racing, especially the first time you do it. But she's going to smile, right? Like there's a lot of men, like you're smiling and I can see like there's hope in your eyes about like, yeah, that would probably work.
No, even as I was coming here, there were like 2 people that I was attracted to.
Yeah.
The first one, I was gonna go give them a compliment, and then I was like, okay, you know what, let me just go to this. And then the second one, she just walked past me, and I just gave her a compliment. I know she was laughing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get a number, nothing.
Yep.
Just.
Good for you. Yeah. Yeah, so did that answer your question about like how to talk to people when you're attracted to them versus not attracted? Like, dude, just be friends with everybody. And honestly, like, especially with the people you're confident around, pretend to be nervous. Playfully. Because then when you are nervous, you know how to playfully be nervous. As counterintuitive as that might seem, if you can make people laugh while you're doing it, you're getting yourself comfortable. Like routinely, this is something I used to do. I would, as an exercise, before I would go out trying to meet people, I would just walk by 5 women that I found genuinely attractive or like put a lot of thought and effort into their outfits. And it's just like, you look amazing, you deserve to know it. Don't want anything from you, have a great day. And I meant it because I didn't have to be attracted to them. Their outfit was just amazing. Keep going. Make sense? You're just exposing yourself to having those sorts of interactions. Okay, does anybody else have a question? What's that?
All right, so earlier you talked about Penn.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you should be able to turn on and off the nice guy, extrovert, leader, provider as needed.
Yes.
What does gauging Penn look like in someone? What do you do to do that?
I actually don't use Penn, for me personally. And it's not like I'm teaching something that I don't practice. I've used it. I have other models that are much more sophisticated and useful. My favorite right now is actually what's called the Big Five or Ocean. And it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion. A is, I want to say assertiveness, but that's wrong. And then neuroticism. And each of those has 2 subcategories. And so when I'm interacting with somebody, I'm gauging how creative they are. Are they covered in tattoos? Do they dress really well? Do they like to kind of peacock a little bit? If they are, then I know something about them. They're probably a little creative, right? If I get to know somebody and their hobby is like painting or film, I know something about them. They're a little bit creative, right? So I can bond with them over understanding what their creative outlet is, and if I can relate to it, I definitely will, right? Or if I have an interest in it, be like, oh my God, I paint like a 2-year-old. Like, I'd love to go to a painting class. Does that sound fun? She's probably open to it. Or he, right? So openness is one of them. Extroversion, exact same thing. Conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is the ability to do what we say we're going to do. This is sort of like the P in psychotic, except on the opposite end. These are very dutiful people. These are people that live by a schedule. They don't break their schedule. If they make a promise, they're going to honor it. Someone who's psychotic, on the other hand, low conscientiousness technically, they're driven by their emotions. how they feel dictates how they live their life in that moment. So I know that if I'm actually annoyingly low conscientiousness. These are biological temperaments, by the way. You can see these personality traits in as young as 4-year-olds. And what's super annoying is that they are stable throughout entire lifetimes. So if you're introverted, you can learn the skills of an extrovert. But eventually, being introverted, you have a social battery. You're going to get burnt out. It's something you have to know about you. By the way, if you're attracted to a woman who's introverted and you're an extrovert, you need to know that this person is going to get burnt out and is going to want alone time sometimes. And if you live and breathe through social interactions, you're going to feel like you're growing apart. Like, she never wants to come with me anywhere. No, she's just an introvert, dude. Like, you have to know that. So with conscientiousness, I, as a male, am annoyingly low conscientiousness. I'm late to everything. Like, I cannot keep a schedule to save my life. Yeah, you too? Yeah, I'm definitely a psychotic. But there was one woman I was really, really, really attracted to, and she was telling me about how she's so disappointed with men because they never do what they say they're going to do. She's like, they get complacent, they get lazy, and in my head I was like, nope, you find yourself attracted to low conscientious men. I'm one of them, but let me not say that. Like, but now I know if I'm gonna date this person, I have to step my game up. I have to. Otherwise, it's gonna seem like this great relationship that just died and she made me feel bad about myself. No, dude, you knew that was a weak spot of yours and you knew she wasn't gonna tolerate that shit. So when I do personality assessments, I do much more complex versions of it. But the pen is really simple to understand. It's extremely useful. I will be teaching Ocean and using Ocean examples. Agreeableness, that's what A was. It's agreeableness. That was irritating me. I will be using these examples. I don't expect you to remember them, but when I give you very specific advice about you met a woman who's high in openness, then take that bit of knowledge, right? If you want to learn these things, by all means, I will teach you all of it. But I just know that there's a lot to learn and it can be overwhelming if I flood you with everything. So I'm just going to be hyper specific about how we solve your problem, which is why I started with the pen. Make sense? Okay, cool. Anyone else have any questions? Dude, for me, this is fun. I love this. So, don't hesitate to ask questions. Libby, do you have questions or no? All right, that's cool. Be shy.
I'll throw another out there.
What's up?
What in a deep conversation would release that? Because I have my assumptions. I'm curious if you're true.
What in a deep conversation would release oxytocin?
Yes.
Deep conversation.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten lost in time with somebody?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. already? How is that possible? That's oxytocin. It's a feel-good chemical that forces you to be hyper-present because you're not stressed about anything. You're not thinking about anything. You're lost in the moment. That's why passionate sex often seems like it can go on forever. And sometimes you're like, damn, dude, we had sex for 2 hours? Or sometimes it's like, that was a long 30 minutes. It doesn't matter, time disappears. That's what oxytocin does.
Okay.
You go to a comedy show and you're like, that was an hour? That's crazy. It felt like 15 minutes. Oxytocin. You get lost in time. Time disappears. So yeah, deep conversation. That is it. That's how you trigger it. If you want to trigger it further, you initiate touch, right? This will be. I hesitate to say bragging, but an example of how to trigger it, right? I don't know if you were there. I think Andrew was. But there was this really attractive woman that I was talking to, and another guy that was competing for her attention. It was very annoying. But he was not a dating coach, and he did have natural game. And so he would steal her away in conversation. And what I would do is I would position myself appropriately next to her, and then I'd hold her thigh and rub on her thigh and hold her hand. No matter how deep of a conversation he's getting into, he cannot release and associate more oxytocin with him than me with her. Because I'm doing something very intimate and she's letting me know it's okay. I win. Right? So like that's how you can trigger more oxytocin, is just slightly escalate in a way she's comfortable with. By the way, dude, I've definitely gone, are you okay with this? Like, I know we just met, but like, I really like you. Are you okay with this? And I've met women that are like, I'm super nervous, I'm awkward. And I've met women that are like, yeah, it's fine. But like, take the feedback. It's okay to ask. Don't kill the moment, but it's okay to ask. Don't be like, are you sure? Don't do that. Would you, like, as a woman, would you agree with that, Lisa?
Yes, if I felt like I had known them for however long enough I needed to.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you make them laugh. Deep conversation by itself can do it. Touch is important. Having the conversation go sexual, man. Like, you just want to make sure that they see you as a sexual creature rather than just this autonomous being that's over there and they never bridge that gap. 'Cause that's how you get friend zoned. Unconsciously, that's how it happens. So, any other questions? If not, like, honestly, I think we covered a lot, but like, I'm happy to keep doing this. So please, if you have questions, I'm here. Like, recent experiences where you're like, damn, I thought it was going well, and then it didn't. Okay.
So maybe I have one last question.
Sure, yeah. I think we can wrap up after this.
Yeah, maybe, okay. So I identify as ethically non-monogamous.
Okay, same.
Okay, so it's like a huge barrier in like traditional dating that, you know, even when I'm open and honest with the people that I try to date, that I don't waste anybody's time. But I know they also would be interested, but like, but they identify as monogamous, and then they are like, okay, you know what, cut. This is not gonna work out.
Sure.
How do you kind of like test the waters with somebody who hasn't experienced it, but I have, and I know what it is, and so on. But
Yes.
let's see how this goes.
So Lisa, this may actually be super relevant to you. Basically, he was saying he practices ethical non-monogamy, but he doesn't know how to bring it up in conversation that just immediately just creates too much pressure or comes off as inappropriate. Like, how do you deal with it, right? Honestly, I don't know if you're here for that part, but my answer is I'm somebody that likes to date openly, and I prefer bisexual women. That's it. And dude, you will lose opportunities from that. And it sucks, because you're like, I really like you. But you don't want to cheat, dude.
Yeah.
Like, cheating is horrible. Don't do that to people. It's not nice. Yeah.
I part of a 4-year long-term monogamous relationship because I realized I cannot be monogamous long-term, and I didn't want to cheat on them.
Yeah.
I tried to open up our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and it went well till I actually slept with another woman, and then
Yep.
she's like, okay, this is not going to work out.
Yep.
Let's part ways, right? So, and
And she knew that you were sleeping with somebody else? Like, that was communicated, but she just couldn't handle it? Okay. So basically what he was saying was that he was in a 4-year committed relationship, monogamous, decided he wanted to be open, non-monogamous, communicated that appropriately. She said it was okay, and then when it happened, she realized she couldn't handle it, and they broke up. Which, like, dude, fair. She can never say you cheated on her, right? Like, well done. I'm sure it sucked, but there's worse ways that could have gone,
yeah.
right? When you are somebody who owns themselves, right? A lot of people think like, oh, I have to be good with women. It's a backwards logic, and you're just not gonna have success that way. Because what happens is, if you're a man who thinks you want to be great with women, you're gonna have that expectation whenever you find a woman that's attractive, your heart's gonna kick in, and then you're gonna shut down. When you are just you, and you're fun, and you're amazing, and you're well-developed personality, you know how to have conversation, people like you. Like, men wanna hang around you, and women wanna hang around you, right? And that's all you want. At that point, you just learn how to have normal sexual conversation that isn't weird and necessarily about you. Now she doesn't see you as a friend or he, and then you just learn how to escalate, like just very slowly, touch, right? But handling, everybody should just know it about you, dude. Everybody. I'm somebody that likes to date openly. Maybe you don't want to date bisexual women. Totally fine. I'm somebody that likes to date openly. I wouldn't even add like fancy phrases to it, like ethical non-monogamy, because it just sounds like a sophisticated way to say something sleazy, like I like to have sex with a lot of women. She's laughing. I actually met a couple last night that practiced ethical non-monogamy, and like we got to have a cool conversation about it because I've been there. But men have a different problem that they're trying to overcome, which is that men have given men a bad rap, a bad name. It sounds cheesy. I'm somebody that likes to date openly. I don't believe in cheating. Period. And like, you tell that to people you're not attracted to. You tell that to people you are attracted to. You tell that to, everybody should just know that about you. Right? And again, you can force that into conversation. Like, if I were to go meet people, like, oh, like, how do you guys know each other? Like, are you two together? I'd be like, no, not really. This is my sister, or this is my cousin, or yeah, that's my girlfriend. She'd be like, oh, very cool. And then if they're like, are you here with anybody? Just be like, no, actually, I'm, not to be weird, like, I like to date openly. I typically don't promote it, but, like, again, it's a line, but it's a useful one, right? Like, you don't want to come off as sleazy, and you're being honest. Again, the industry is full of lines. It's a problem. I'm trying to teach psychology. But yeah, you want to get reciprocal. If you're going to make something known about yourself that usually would be considered taboo, you just have that conversation. Through virtue of reciprocity, they're going to ask you a similar question about yourself. They've then given you permission to be honest. Does that make sense? So you don't have to be like, hi guys, I date openly. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be weird and forced. You just get to know other people, and then by virtue of them answering, just be like, oh, it's very cool. How long have you guys been together? Oh, I've never been in a serious relationship. I practice open relationships personally. Like, I just find that's best. I don't believe in cheating. And then you carry on. Like, but I think it'd be really cool to have a partner like that. Actually, I'd love to have a long-term partner while being open. That sounds really awesome. But do you see how it came off as completely natural and normal conversation just by asking how long someone's been together? So yeah, it's reciprocity. That's the psychology aspect of it. Rather than focusing on the line and gimmicks, just understand that when you invite something, people tend to allow you to give your answer as well. So, very cool. This is fun. 5 people was actually more than I was expecting. Cause like we got 6 yeses and then I got like 3 or 4 like, oh, I can't make it. So I was like, damn it. So the fact that 5 people showed up made me really happy. Thank you guys. I want to keep doing this. And what's gonna be cool is the more people that show up, the more problems people are gonna have, the more you're gonna be able to relate to it. And by the way, when you start overcoming these problems, it's not like you're not gonna have problems again. You're just gonna have the next layer of problem, right? So like, as an example, if I'm dealing with somebody, especially a male, who can't get a number, I can help them learn how to get a number, right? But then they run into the problem, okay, I can get numbers now, but I can't get past the first date. Like the first date seems to go well, then I get ghosted. It's a completely different problem, right? Or like, we can have several dates, but after the first time we have sex, things sort of die off. That's a different problem. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about that. But each time you come, you guys should be learning something, applying something. And by the way, when you apply it, it should seem so normal. It shouldn't seem forced. It shouldn't seem scary because you're doing silly shit like to people, like, dude, you're doing it to people you're not attracted to. I just want you to know I'm super shy, so if I get weird, you know what I mean? But like, if that's not what you want to do, don't do that. Like this, again, this isn't about lines and gimmicks. Just find a playful way that you're comfortable calling yourself out. I think you said you do that already anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do that.
The only thing I would offer you then is just give compliments to everybody, whether you're attracted to them or not. Make sure it's a meaningful compliment, right? Something they put time, effort, and energy into. I've seen women that are absolutely gorgeous, but they have like a messy bun and they're like, they haven't worn anything very well. And aside from being like, yo, you look hot, like I can't give them that kind of compliment. So I let it go. And it sucks. So I'm like, I'd like to get to know her. But I can't give that compliment. So it's just knowing when it's appropriate and then how to maximize that opportunity, even if the opportunity is just getting comfortable giving compliments. Right? You don't want anything from her. I don't want anything from you. Have a great day. I just thought you should know it. Playful smile and a wink. She'll appreciate it. Cool. That's it. And by the way, Lisa, if a woman ever came up to me and was like, dude, you're rocking that outfit, well done, I'd be like, thanks. You know what I mean? Like,
someone did tell me about the compliment thing, and I started doing it to men first.
you do it, yeah.
Just to get over that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people walk around and people
You
say,
can do it to men too. That's absolutely right.
It's awesome, right?
You know what's funny is one of the first like challenges I had when I was learning dating as like a skill set that I really wanted to overcome was I didn't know how to infiltrate groups of people that knew each other very well and be a complete stranger. And what I would do is I would compliment the best looking guy or the biggest guy on something I felt was sincere, like his shoes or whatever. And she'd be like, dude, this sounds weird, but like solid shoes, man. Like, or like that out. I don't remember what it was. It was like someone's like coat or something, but it worked. He was super happy, like, cause I guess he really liked his coat or shoes. I don't remember, but it worked. And then I was like, my name's Chris, by the way. I'm new in town. You know, how do you guys know each other? And so by complimenting the guy, he introduced me to everybody. Yeah, you don't have to go after the woman. And that's not what you should be doing. You just want to be awesome, and people come to you. Make sense? That's it. But yeah, as you get better at it, like your problems will get more refined, and you'll probably have a different question next time. But I'd look forward to it, dude. That means you're doing better. Yeah. Cool. Was this great for everyone? Was this fun? Was it boring? Like, no, it wasn't boring? Okay, I was genuinely asking, because like, it was my first one. I've helped people, but I've never done like a seminar type thing. So anyways, this was fun for me. Thank you guys so much. Truly.
Thanks, Chris.
Hi, guys.